Something about that letter didn't sit right with me. M.W. Marty Wilkins. A name I'd never heard before Nancy disappeared. A name that suddenly carried more weight than it should. So I did what any stubborn man would do. I started digging. First, I checked the town records. Nothing. No birth certificate, no tax filings, no driver's license. No proof that Marty Wilkins had ever lived, worked, or even breathed in this county. It was like he was a ghost. That's when I called an old friend who owed me a favor down at the county office. "Run the name Marty Wilkins for me," I said. "See what comes up." She called back an hour later. "Jack, there's nothing. That name doesn't exist in any system. Not here, not anywhere." That's when the unease started creeping in. Who the hell sends a warning letter when they don't even legally exist? I widened my search. If Marty Wilkins was a lie, maybe there was another name I should be looking for. That's when I found it. An old newspaper article buried deep in the archives. I read the article twice. Then a third time. My pulse picked up speed. Nancy Wilkins had a brother, a twin. His name? Mark Wilkins. Declared dead in the fire, but the body was never found. I exhaled, my fingers tightening around the paper. M.W. Marty Wilkins wasn't a real person. Mark Wilkins was. And if he was still alive, that meant this wasn't just about land anymore. This was about revenge. And I had a feeling my problems were only just beginning. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe for more awesome content. And while you're at it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. All right, let's keep going. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. The black car started showing up 2 days after I found out the truth about Mark Wilkins. Always parked just far enough to be out of reach, but close enough that I could feel it. Some nights it sat at the end of my driveway. Other times it lingered near the tree line, half hidden in the shadows. It never moved when I looked. Never flashed its lights. Just watched. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe some lost driver. Maybe someone casing the place for a robbery. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't random. Someone was waiting for something. I wasn't about to sit around and let them take the first shot. That night, I went out with trail cameras, the kind hunters use to track movement. Infrared. Motion activated. Completely silent. I set them up around my property, covering every blind spot I could think of. If someone was sneaking around my land, I was going to catch them. Rusty followed close behind, ears twitching, sniffing at the cold night air. Even he could tell something was wrong. I gave him a pat. "If they come too close, boy, make sure they regret it." His tail thumped once against the dirt, but he didn't take his eyes off the dark fields beyond the fence. Something was out there. I could feel it. By morning, the black car was gone. Like always. But this time, I had proof. I pulled the SD cards from the trail cameras and loaded them up on my laptop. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Movement along the fence line around. 2:47 a.m., then I saw them. 2 figures, both dressed in black, faces covered, moving carefully, methodically, scanning the property. One of them knelt, inspecting something on the ground. Then, right before the footage cut off, I saw it. One of them pulled out a knife and slashed through my fence. I pushed back from the desk, my jaw tightening. This wasn't some scare tactic. They weren't just watching anymore. They were trying to get inside, and I had a sick feeling that, whatever they were planning next, they weren't going to stop. The call came just past midnight. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the footage from my trail cameras for the 100th time, trying to figure out what the hell these people wanted. Rusty was curled up by the door, ears twitching even in his sleep. The only sound in the house was the quiet hum of the fridge. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, expecting silence, maybe some static, some breathing, the usual intimidation tactic. But instead, a voice spoke, low, distorted, deliberately unrecognizable. "You don't know what you're up against. Walk away." My fingers tightened around the phone. "Who is this?" Silence. "Listen, pal," I growled. "If you're trying to scare me, you're gonna have to do a hell of a lot better than—" Click. The line went dead. I pulled the phone away, staring at the screen like it could give me answers. My pulse was steady, but I could feel the cold edge of something creeping in. This wasn't just some land dispute anymore. Someone wanted me gone, and they were done being polite about it. I barely got 2 hours of sleep before Rusty's barking jolted me awake. Not his normal, "something's outside" bark. This was worse. A deep, furious snarl, the kind that sent a primal warning straight through my spine. I grabbed the shotgun and ran for the door, throwing it open to a gust of cold night air. Rusty tore past me, sprinting toward the barn, and that's when I saw it. The barn doors were wide open. I moved fast, boots kicking up dirt as I ran. The stench hit me before I even made it inside, iron and fear thick in the air. Then I saw them, my cattle, slashed. 3 of them lay on the ground, still breathing, their sides cut open in deep, deliberate wounds. Not random, not sloppy. Precise. Intentional. I clenched my jaw, rage bubbling up through my chest. Whoever did this wasn't just sending a message. They wanted me to suffer. And then I saw the symbol, carved deep into the wooden beam by the barn. I adored a rough, jagged circle with an X slashed through it. I froze. Because I'd seen that before. Nancy's old house. I remembered it now, the faded mark scratched into the back porch railing. I had thought it was just old vandalism, something from before she moved in. But now I knew better. This wasn't some random symbol. It meant something. Something connected to Mark Wilkins. And if he was willing to bleed my animals just to make a point, then I knew one thing for sure. He wasn't done yet. If they wanted me gone, they'd have to do a hell of a lot more than slash my cattle. I was done waiting. Whoever Marty Wilkins really was, he had been calling the shots from the shadows for too long. If he wanted my land, fine. I'd make him think he could have it. But on my terms. I contacted a real estate agent I knew from town. Fed her a fake rumor to spread around. Jack Benson was tired. Ready to cut his losses. Maybe willing to sell for the right price. It didn't take long. 2 days later I got a call. Blocked number. I let it ring twice before answering. "Benson." A voice came through, low and calm. Too calm. "I hear you're looking to make a deal." I kept my voice steady. "Maybe." "Who's asking?" A slight pause. Then, "Marty Wilkins." Bingo. He suggested we meet alone at an abandoned gas station outside of town. No lawyers, no paperwork, just a conversation. I agreed, but I wasn't going there to sell. I was going there to end this. The gas station was just as I remembered it. A ghost of a place, long since abandoned, the old rusted sign swinging in the wind. One flickering streetlight barely lit the cracked pavement. A black SUV was already parked near the pumps, engine running. I pulled up, keeping my hands visible as I stepped out of the truck. If Marty thought I was some desperate man ready to take a deal, I wanted him to believe it. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders, a little too polished for someone using a fake name. "Marty Wilkins?" I asked. He smiled. Something like that. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Before I could say another word, I heard footsteps behind me. Too late. Something hard slammed into my back, shoving me forward. I caught myself before hitting the pavement, spinning just in time to see 2 more men closing in. Marty sighed. Jack, did you really think this was a negotiation?" One of the men grabbed my arm. I let him. Then I drove my elbow straight into his ribs and swung, catching the second guy across the jaw. Marty cursed as I lunged for the truck, but the third guy was faster. A fist cracked against my jaw, sending me reeling. Before I could recover, I felt the cold bite of zip ties tightening around my wrists. I struggled, but the more I fought, the harder they pulled. Marty crouched in front of me, his smile gone. "You should have walked away, Jack." I spit blood onto the pavement and grinned. "You should have brought more guys." His eyes darkened. Put him in the car, and just like that I knew. If they got me inside that SUV, I wasn't coming back. I had one shot. As one of the men yanked me toward the car, I threw my weight forward, making him stumble. Before he could recover, I swung my boot straight into his knee. The snap was loud. The scream was louder. Marty's face twisted in fury. "Get him!" Too late. I turned and sprinted for my truck, hands still tied. Adrenaline pushing me forward. Gunshots cracked through the air, but I didn't stop. I threw myself into the driver's seat, slammed the door with my shoulder, and fumbled for the ignition. The engine roared to life just as one of them grabbed the handle. I hit the gas. Tires screeched. Gravel flew. And in the rearview mirror, I saw Marty standing there watching me escape. Not angry, not panicked, just smiling, because he knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night, even after escaping that gas station ambush. Even after breaking the zip ties off my wrists with a rusted pair of pliers, I couldn't shake one thought. Marty Wilkins wasn't just some hired thug. He was something else, and I needed to know exactly what. By sunrise, I was already making calls. Not to the sheriff's office, not after what happened last time, not to anyone in town. I needed someone who could dig up real answers, so I called Evelyn Carter, an old reporter who used to work the crime beat before she retired. She owed me a favor. "Evelyn," I said the second she picked up, "I need everything you can find on Nancy Wilkins's family. Old records, birth certificates, whatever's public." She sighed. "Jack, you know I don't do this anymore." "I know," I said. "But I think her brother's still alive." Silence. Then a rustle of papers. "Give me an hour." She took 30 minutes. When she called back, her voice was sharp. "Jack, you were right." I pulled over to the side of the road, gripping the wheel. "Talk to me." She exhaled. "Nancy Wilkins had a twin brother, Mark Wilkins. He was declared dead when their childhood home burned down." I frowned. And his body was never found. My stomach dropped. The old news article she found painted the picture 30 years ago. A late-night house fire. 2 parents killed. 1 child missing. Presumed dead. That child? Mark. Nancy had survived. She had inherited the family fortune. Built. Her little HOA empire. Acted like her past never existed. But if Mark was really dead, then who the hell had just tried to kidnap me? I ran a search for Marty Wilkins. Nothing. No records, no tax filings, no existence. But then I searched for Mark Wilkins, and I found something. A sealed juvenile criminal record. No details, just a case number and a date. The same year as the fire. Something clicked in my head. Nancy's brother never died. He changed his name. He became Marty Wilkins. And now? He was back. Back for revenge. Back for the land. And I had a sinking feeling this was never about Nancy. This was always about Mark. And he wasn't done with me yet. People like to pretend small towns don't keep secrets. That everyone knows everyone, and the past never stays buried. That's a damn lie. Because Willow Creek had buried something deep, and the more I dug, the uglier it got. I started at the diner, where old men drank their coffee black and talked like they had all the time in the world. I eased into it slow, didn't mention Nancy, didn't mention Mark. Just started asking about the fire. The reaction was immediate. People stiffened, eyes shifted, voices lowered. "Oh, that old mess?" someone muttered, stirring their coffee too fast. "Terrible thing," another said. "Best left in the past." But I could tell. They knew something. And after enough pushing, one of them cracked. "Jack," Old Man Tucker finally muttered, "you don't want to go digging in the Wilkins past. Some things, they don't need uncovering." I leaned in. "Why don't you let me decide that?" Tucker sighed, rubbing his jaw like he was about to say something he'd been holding in for years. "Nancy's daddy wasn't a good man," he said finally. "Not by a long shot." I stayed quiet, letting him talk. "Used to beat on the kids. Everyone in town knew it. But back then folks didn't interfere in family matters. That was just how it was." He exhaled. "Then one day he just disappeared. My pulse quickened." "Disappeared?" Tucker nodded. "Gone without a trace. No body. No goodbye. Just vanished." I frowned. "And people think Mark had something to do with it?" Tucker hesitated. Then, "Boy was quiet. But when you looked in his eyes, you saw it. He was angry, real angry. People whispered that maybe he finally snapped. Maybe he did something to his old man. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. "So what happened the night of the fire?" I asked. Tucker's eyes darkened. "That's the part no one talks about." "See," he continued, lowering his voice. "A few weeks after their daddy disappeared, that house went up in flames. People called it an accident, but—" He shook his head. "But you don't think it was," I finished for him. Tucker looked me dead in the eye. "Nancy got out fine. Mark? Never found. And some folks think that's 'cause he started the fire himself, to cover up what he did." The words settled deep in my gut. If that was true, if Mark had killed his father and burned that house to the ground, then what the hell did that make him now? And why was he back? I left the diner feeling like the ground beneath me had shifted, because this wasn't about land anymore. This was about Mark Wilkins finishing what he started. He didn't just vanish after the fire. He became someone else. He pulled strings. He played the long game. And now, he was here, watching, waiting. I climbed into my truck, gripping the wheel. If Mark thought I was just another loose end to tie up, he was dead wrong. Because now, I knew who I was up against, and I wasn't backing down. The smell of smoke yanked me out of my sleep. Not the kind from a neighbor's bonfire. Not the kind that drifts lazily from a chimney. This was thick, sharp, wrong. I bolted upright, heart hammering, my brain already catching up. My farm was on fire. I was out the door before my boots were even fully on. Rusty tore ahead of me, barking like a damn siren, and then I saw it. Flames licking up the side of my barn, turning the old wood into a funeral pyre. The dry grass around it had already caught, embers jumping in the wind, hungry to spread. If the fire hit the house, it was over. A truck skidded into my driveway. Ray and some of the other neighbors. More headlights followed. "We saw the smoke!" Ray shouted, jumping out with a fire extinguisher. No questions, no hesitation, just people ready to fight. Buckets, hoses, shovels, anything to smother the flames. I grabbed a hose and turned it full. Blast, spraying down the barn doors. The heat pressed against my face, sweat pouring down my back, but I didn't stop. None of us did, because this wasn't just a fire. This was an attack, and I had a damn good idea who was behind it. The fire didn't win. It came close. Too close, but we put it out before it swallowed everything. The barn was charred, but it still stood. My house? Safe. But the victory didn't feel like one, because as the last embers died, I saw him, standing at the tree line, watching. Mark Wilkins. For the first time, face to face, he stepped forward slowly, like a man who had all the time in the world. Tall, lean, eyes sharp, calculating, no anger, no smugness, just cold control. "You finally came out of the shadows," I called, my voice steady despite the fire still raging in my chest. He smirked. "I was never in them." I took a step closer, fists clenched. "So this is how you do things, huh? Sneak around, send goons, burn." "A man's home down." Mark tilted his head. "You're thinking about Nancy," he said. "She played games, manipulated, bluffed." His smirk faded. "I don't play games." Something in his voice sent ice through my veins. Nancy had been an arrogant tyrant, thinking she could control everything with money and power. But Mark? Mark was something else entirely. "Walk away, Jack," he said simply. "This land isn't worth—" "What's coming?" I let out a slow breath, then shook my head. "You just made this personal." Mark sighed like I was exhausting him. "It was always personal." Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the night, leaving behind ashes, a warning, and a promise. This wasn't over, not even close. I knew Mark Wilkins would come back. People like him don't just disappear after a failed attempt. They adapt. They wait. They strike when you least expect it. So I made sure I was ready. 3 nights after the fire, I got the chance I needed. Mark showed up again, this time at my fence line. No threats, no men, just him, standing there like he owned the place. I walked, out slow, hands in my pockets, my phone recording from the moment I stepped off the porch. Coming to check your handiwork? I asked, voice calm. Mark just smiled. I came to offer you one last out. I let out a dry laugh. That right? You turn. Over the land, I make sure you leave in one piece, he said, his voice even, unreadable. You fight? You lose more than just your property. I tilted my head. Like my life? Mark didn't blink. I don't make empty threats, Jack. You've seen what happens to people who stand in my way. And there it was, the confession, murder, arson. The whole damn land scheme tied up in one neat little package. I kept my face neutral, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. That's funny, I said, because I don't make empty threats either. I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit play. Mark's own voice crackled through the speaker, repeating every damn word he just said. For the first time, his smirk faltered. You think that's enough to stop me? Mark asked, but his tone was different now. I nodded. I do, and something tells me the cops will too. Then something I didn't expect. Mark laughed, not nervous, not panicked, just amused, like he knew something I didn't. You think I'm the worst thing coming for you, Jack? He said, shaking his head. You have no idea. Before I could react, he turned and walked into the darkness. No rush, no fear, just calm certainty, and that's when I knew. This wasn't over. By morning, the audio recording was in the right hands. Mark was a wanted man, but he was gone. No trace, no sightings. It was like he had vanished into thin air, and then, just when I thought I could breathe, a new letter arrived. Different handwriting, different name, but the same damn message. You've only just begun. I exhaled slowly, gripping the paper. Mark. Might have been the devil I knew, but someone worse was coming. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the next part, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated. See you in the next one. Your support means the world.